excited. We're the Hallmarkies podcast, and we are here. Thank you for being a friend. We are here to talk about the Golden Girls, and I'm Rachel. Amber's here.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, and we have a special guest today. One of my friends, Larry from LCScreentalk, a huge Golden Girls fan, is here to help us talk about this great show.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. And so why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you do on your channel and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so as Rachel said, my name is Larry, and I have a little YouTube channel that's called LCScreentalk, in which I mostly review films, but I also like to throw in some kind of creative stuff every now and then, list rankings, the whole jazz, but also like little lip sync videos and stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have a huge repertoire with TV, but one TV show I have certainly seen every single episode to multiple times is The Golden Girls. So I was very excited when Rachel asked me to be a part of this one.
Yeah. You might want to show off to our video listeners. Show off your what you've got behind you there.
Yeah, so this was a commission I got at Comic-Con here in Denver. So, while everybody else is running around scouring for Batman, apparently I'm looking for the Golden Girls. And then, of course, I have the Funko Pops of our four ladies. So I also have the Blu-rays or DVDs down here for the series as well, which you can see behind Rachel, those ones.
Yeah. All right. So I like we did with some of the other shows we talked about. Well, let's kind of go through kind of our experience with the show and what we like about it, what is good about it, and then we'll dive into kind of the characters and the stories and things like that we like. So I will start, and so we didn't have TV. We had TV like off and on, growing up. So I didn't really I wasn't really a fan of Golden Girls when it was on. And it was definitely probably too bawdy for my mom's taste for sure. But anyway, I was just looking for, there was like an era where I got really into TV on DVD. I don't know, it was 5 years ago or something like that. And so it was a really good deal on Amazon. So I was like, I'm going to buy the whole series. I'm just going to watch all the Golden Girls. And so I watched all the Golden Girls and I was like, I love this show. It's so funny. And I just really loved the characters. And the thing that I really like about Golden Girls is that it was weird when I was making up my top 10 list of episodes, almost all of them were actually not that funny. We're more like serious, but they tackled a lot of pretty tough stuff and were pretty brave, but they never lost the joke, and it was never heavy-handed, it was never preachy. It was just like, these are the characters, this is what they're going through. And I don't know if maybe I related to it because I'm 37 and single and I can see myself in my good fantasy. Sometimes I think hopefully I'll be able to find 4 friends to live with, who knows. But I don't know. So I kind of relate to some of their situations and things, and it's just good writing, good acting. It's funny, and they're pretty brave. So that's why I like it. So what about you, Larry? Why do you like the show?
Yeah, so I also didn't see it during its original run. Mine is mostly because I wasn't alive yet for a good portion of the original run. But I actually was raised by my grandma, and we took care of my very elderly great-grandmother for a good portion of my growing up experience. So I've always had just kind of a connection with strong women my whole life. I think I kind of attribute it to being raised by a lot of really amazing women. And of course, my grandmother did really like the Golden Girls. So I grew up on like The Nanny, the Golden Girls, stuff like the Roseanne. All of the sitcoms with strong women in the lead seemed to be the ones I gravitated toward most. And then as I grew up and continued to just kind of rewatch old episodes of Golden Girls, and it was one of the rerun shows that I would always stop and watch, I too realized, wow, this show really tackled some important and heavy stuff for its time, right off the bat, from the concept of four single elderly ladies just living their life, doing their thing day in, and not having to apologize for it or feel any kind of way. So I think it was such a progressive, wonderful show. And yeah, it's hilarious. Dorothy is like my spirit person. So instead of a spirit animal, she's like my spirit person. Sarcastic, like funny, fun, but also single forever. So
So that answers which Golden Girl you are.
yes,
It's Dorothy.
It's Dorothy.
And now I'm so excited to know that you watched The Nanny.
Yes.
Expect a future podcast.
Watch out. Rachel's favorite show.
I love The Nanny so much. All right. So, Amber, what about you?
First, real quick. So Larry is Dorothy. Rachel, who are you?
Well, I mean, I was going to say Dorothy, but but we can't all be Dorothy, right?
Well, I'm not going to be Dorothy, so that's fine.
I don't want to be Rose because Rose is so dumb.
You do come, well, Salt Lake isn't a small town. You do come from a smaller place.
Yeah, Rachel, you come from Chesapeake Shore. That's not a big place.
Yeah, because I actually don't come from Salt Lake. I come from Middletown, Maryland, and tiny little town.
Sounds like St. Olaf to me.
Okay. Well, I do like to tell stories, and I am very nice. So I as long as I'm not as dumb as Rose, I can handle it. I can handle being Rose. He's the funniest one, I think. Personally. We'll talk about it coming up. But she gets most of the good laughs, in my opinion. So, what about you, Amber?
I'm obviously Sophia. Like, for real. I'm just like super grouchy and just like mean. So, girl, I'm Sophia.
Yeah. None of us. I thought you might be Blanche, Larry. Just because I don't know. She's just so confident and fun.
I wish. That's like the facade. See, that's why I relate to Dorothy. She puts on the like mean face, but really inside she's talking about her turtleneck and all this other crazy, her turkey neck and all this other crazy stuff. So,
Girls, one of the most iconic things about the show is
cheesecake. I'm just kidding.
yeah.
What are we talking about? One of the most iconic things about the show is actually the theme song to the show.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend.
The theme was recorded by Cynthia Fee, and she is a singer known for working on with Kenny Rogers, kind of a country singer, I guess. And it's just such a great way to welcome you into the show. And I don't know, what do you think about this theme, Larry?
I mean, I guess I just love it. It's one of those, at least for me, and I always wonder, is it just because I love the show, or if you were to ask like 100 people on the street, what is this a theme to? I feel like I still feel like a lot of people would know. They would definitely pass like the 50 percentile. But just feels like an iconic TV show theme song. Like it's just one of those that is instantly recognizable to the show that it's with. It catches that spirit of what the show is all about. So like you said, it's just a great introduction into what it is you're about to watch.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so thematic too because it's about these friends. So thank you for being a friend. It works perfect. I don't know, Amber, would you agree this is one of the best themes?
Well, Rachel and I were briefly talking about it. Rachel and I are always like IMing each other like, oh my goodness. But so we were talking about it and I was like, Rachel, is there even another theme song that is even as close to as good? And Rachel was like, Fresh Prince. And I was like, it's too long. Like, it's catchy, but it's not as perfect as a theme song for a TV show because it's too long.
Yeah.
And then
that was the best one.
We were going through other things, and Larry, can you think of anything?
The only one I can really think is the Friends theme song.
Yeah.
That one's pretty good too.
Yeah.
But it is long.
It is long. Did you ever see, there's a few episodes for the Golden Girls, and I think I don't know why sitcoms randomly do this, where they play, an elongated version, so it's a little bit longer than that clip. I know there's only a couple where they do that on this one, but, yeah, it's like, oh, there's a whole nother, random verse to this.
According to the Wikipedia page for the song, which I'm on right now, it is 4 minutes and 41 seconds long if you listen to the full long version. Maybe we should play that and dance to it for that long.
Yeah. I remember we thought, I do love the theme song to Mary Tyler Moore Show. That would be my other one. You're Gonna Make It After All. And they're throwing the hat in the air and everything is pretty fun. But this is definitely one of the best for sure. So, all right. So let's talk about our girls. So we have Dorothy, played by Bea Arthur. And so one of the things that's interesting is that Estelle Getty played her mother, and she's actually a year older than Bea Arthur is actually a year older than Estelle Getty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
And I think Estelle Getty was the youngest, wasn't she, of the four?
Ooh.
I'm a fielding.
So, Larry, how would you describe Dorothy as a character?
Dorothy is kind of, again, she's also pretty grumpy. Sophia and Dorothy, like mother, like daughter in many ways. But she's very sarcastic. She seems to be mostly the serious one, kind of the straight man to the other three's antics. But since her brand of comedy is so sarcasm heavy, that's where she gets her jokes in, is as they're playing and doing crazy stuff, she uses her straight man role to throw in those little zingers and get her own ridiculous things. Actually, and I said forever single in my thing, but in the final episode, she does get married and leave. Yeah. So, I mean, that was not an accurate depiction of Dorothy.
A dashing Leslie Nielsen, I mean.
Yes, I mean, so for the person who was perpetually the one made fun of and always going to be single and can't get a date, she's the only one who ends up staying or being married, I guess, at the end of the series. But obviously, she's a very helpful, smart woman, very into education, maybe thinks she's smarter than she actually is sometimes. But yeah, that's how I would kind of go with it.
Yeah, and they get a lot of laughter out of her in comparison to Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Because Rose is definitely a simple-minded person. It drives Dorothy crazy.
She's definitely the most real-world type of level-headed. She's usually the most level-headed, at least again on the outside. She presents that air of confidence. Yeah. And then every now and then you see it crack and her freak out. But
and she works for most of the series as a substitute teacher in there. So and her whole backstory, she has probably, well, no, they all actually do develop their backstories pretty well. But her backstory is that she basically got married out of high school because she was pregnant to Stan, who's a recurring character, and who ends up leaving her for a 20-year-old flight attendant and regretting it. And so she's just she's a realist. She's kind of bitter. She's kind of funny. I don't know. Amber, do you like anything about Dorothy?
What, that's just the weirdest way to phrase that.
Oh, sorry. Amber, what do you
So I
like?
know
Oh,
you
my.
hate everything about the show and you hate Dorothy super bad, but do you like anything about her? Like,
Sorry. Sorry, I was just trying to involve you.
I know, it's just the phrasing. But no, yeah, I like Dorothy. She's really funny. Like you said, she's often like the straight man, and she really sets up the jokes. She does sometimes get her zingers in, but she's really, the establishing of all of the jokes. And you need to have that kind of a character in order for the jokes to play. So she's great. She often will set up like Sophia for like the slam dunk. She'll be like, alley-oop, and Sophia's like, so I mean, their dynamic is really fun as well.
And speaking of Dorothy's backstory, that we talked about their age before, I do find it funny that they utilize the fact that Estelle Getty is younger, because they do the actual flashbacks for Dorothy. Then they have a younger woman stand in for her when she's still married to Stan.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why she gets that extra added backstory. Because they never do flashbacks to younger Rose or Blanche or anyone. She's the only one.
Yeah, they did one episode where Rose, when she decides to move to Florida, and she like kind of officially has to say goodbye to Charlie.
Still, as I say, she's still like her Betty White self, though.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. And so, yeah, she's really a fun character. She's the character that most people, I think, sort of either want to be or relate to or whatever. And she is constantly made fun of for her lack of dates. She never has dates. Mostly by her mother, and her mother's always trying to set her up, and very funny. Like with anyone, they'll be like a criminal getting arrested. And we'll be like, "Ooh, you're available." Or Dorothy. Okay, so then we have Betty White as Rose, and like I said, I think that she's the funniest character. Betty White is just like the best. I mean, I love her in the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and couldn't be like a completely different character. When she plays Sue Ann Nevins on Mary Tyler Moore Show, Sue Ann Nevins is like, she's this happy homemaker on the show, on her show, but in reality, she's like super like duplicitous and super just like, I don't know, hilarious. And so she says everything. She's kind of like an Umbridge type, but not in fantasy. And she's great, and gets so many laughs. And in here, it's just so funny to see her in like a completely different role. And evidently, they originally wanted her to play Blanche, but because oh my gosh, Rue McClanahan had, I guess, played a similar kind of dumb character on Mom's Family, and so they thought that she would be, and on Maude, I think. But anyway, so they thought that that's what they were thinking, and then it ended up, getting switched, which is to the blessing of all of us. And she's so funny as far as her stories about St. Olaf, and like just these crazy, like ridiculous, like traditions that they supposedly have there with like that are so funny. And she has she's definitely just so like simple-minded, and has the most like doesn't understand sarcasm at all, which makes her so funny. And I don't know, what do you think about Rose, Larry?
Yeah, Rose is great. She's obviously the naive one of the group. I always found it fun. They used it very sparingly, which I think made it really effective. When she would kind of throw shade in there, like it would be out of nowhere, she would just kind of like slide in this like kind of shady little comment. But overall, yeah, her laughs don't. She's one of the few. Blanche goes in and out of it. That doesn't really have the laughs based off of any sort of sarcasm or kind of slamming other people type of deal. Her laughs mostly come from herself. But she's definitely a fun character. She has so much heart. She's probably the most genuinely good of the characters. She actually has several plot lines throughout the series about her winning like volunteer awards or Good Samaritan awards. She's always up for some award, like the St. Olaf Citizen Award or something like that. Yeah, Rose is just such a fun, iconic character for sure.
I to get into my favorite episodes, but one of the ones I love is called All Bets Are Off, where Dorothy has this gambling problem, and there's a moment in there where Dorothy thinks that Rose is being naive to give her this money for her gambling problem. And she's like, don't give it to me. Why are you giving it to me? And Rose says something to the effect of, because you're my friend, and I want you to not ask this. I want you to, and I don't know, it's just a really poignant, sweet moment where Dorothy realizes she's not being naive. Like that Rose knows what's going on here, but she's just hoping that Dorothy will do the right thing, kind of a thing. And so there's a lot of heart with her character for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like you guys said, she's oftentimes like she's the joke a lot of the times. But like I mean she's kind of absurd, but in the best way possible. So I just really she's just like a sweet, nice, simple person, but every once in a while she can jab you good, especially Blanche with all of her shaming of Blanche.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about Blanche, Rue McClanahan. So she does get a ton of laughs, and of course, like Blanche is very like empowered, I guess you might say, as far as her sexuality, as far as her dating life. She's very confident, at least most of the time. She has a few moments, but yeah, I think we all want to be as confident as Blanche, right, Larry?
Yes, definitely do. Blanche she's great, like, just for that reason. Is, like I was saying kind of in the intro about what I just love right off the bat about the Golden Girls, is a little bit personified in Blanche herself, is an empowered woman of a certain age that is just, going to go about her life and do what she's going to do and not care what anybody has to say about it. They can make fun of her all she wants. She's still going to go on her date and tell of her sexual exploits like is Southern tradition. And she's a lot of fun. And I think that, again, she gets some of the laughs just purely based on her vanity. She walks into jokes unwillingly and unknowingly, whereas kind of Rose leaves the door open for anybody to attack. Blanche is like completely unexpected and it's like, oh, I just walked right into that. But she has some of the best like back and forth sometimes, especially I think I like her back and forth with Sophia a lot when they start getting into it with each other. I think those are really fun.
Mm-hmm. There's a great episode where Sophia is decided she's gonna move out or get married. I can't remember, but she's gonna leave, and all the women each basically tell Dorothy, "I'm so gonna miss my nighttime chats with Sophia." And she's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
She's like, what am I going to do without my nighttime chats? And Dorothy's like, I have nighttime chats. But yeah, and I particularly remember Blanche in that one, just being so discouraged that Sophia was moving out. Which is funny because Sophia is like the quickest to be like,
call her a walking mattress and
right. And Rue McClanahan, it's interesting because B. Arthur has struggled with the show more than the other women. She really wanted to be off the show, but they were able to kind of convince her to do 2 more seasons. But Rue McClanahan, I think, was probably the one that embraced the show the most. I mean, she kept every single one of her outfits. Just, I don't know, just seemed to really just love the show. So do you aspire to be Blanche, Amber?
Honestly, no. Because I am so comfortable as being Sophia. Like, you guys are like, Blanche is super confident, but I'm like, Sophia is also super confident because Sophia don't give no F's. Like, so really, like, I'm super Blanche. I mean, I'm super Sophia, and I'm fine with that. But but Blanche is really funny. You guys were saying how you like when, the Sophia and Blanche stuff, but I really love the Blanche and Rose stuff where Rose is just like, oh, well, you're a trollop, but like in such a nice, sweet way. And like Blanche is always like, how dare you? But it's just like so fabulous. But so I mean, they're all so funny. They really are.
I also love the way that every time Blanche talks about her first, it's like a different story.
Yes, 100%.
That's my favorite. Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about Sophia, Mama Sophia. Okay. So she is just this like Italian mama. She is very opinionated, especially with Dorothy. And she is very funny. And I don't know, just I think it would be very stressful living with your mother. I mean, my mother's amazing. So the fault would be all mine, not hers. But I just think it would be somewhat stressful to be living with your mother. And you get some of that dynamic here between Sophia and Dorothy, I think.
Yeah, Sophia is hilarious. Like just this little firecracker off in her chair, throwing out one-liners, listening in on everybody else's conversation, like waiting for that chance to pounce at anybody leaves just like the slightest of gap in their conversation, and she's like in there and on it. But that's what makes her so great. She's so quick, so like sharp and fast-witted. I also love just her relationship with food. Food is like a big thing in the show in general as we go into things like cheesecake. But Sophia has a whole different relationship with food. She has so many plot lines and storylines that kind of revolve around food, like making her own sauce and so much pride in that Italian food. I love her stories about Sicily, the picture at Sicily 1918, and all of those crazy, ridiculous stories that she tells, which are like 50% of the time not even true at all. And I love when we get a little bit of backstory with her too, when we get like the ex-fiance or the man who left her brokenhearted, or her sister when she comes into town. She has a lot of really fun moments.
Yeah, there's definitely a big food theme in the show. There even, unfortunately, I just found out it's closed, but there even was a Golden Girls Cafe that opened in New York City. Can't believe it closed. That had all different kinds of cheesecake. And I read in the things that they ate they ate cheesecake over 100 times on the show.
I believe it.
And I guess B. Arthur, maybe this is why she got grumpy about this one, because evidently she didn't like cheesecake.
See, another reason I am like right there with Dorothy. Not a big fan of cheesecake myself. But.
Oh yeah, Amber, what about you?
I love cheesecake.
What's your favorite kind?
Oh, okay. So this is gonna be so shameful. So the other day, my friends and I went to the Cheesecake Factory, and I was like, I don't know, what do I want? And I usually always just get the Godiva chocolate cheesecake because it's amazing. But they have this thing called the 30th anniversary cheesecake, and it's like chocolate cheesecake, regular cheesecake with like fudge and like cake, and like it's insane. And guess which one I got? Both. I got both. And I can't decide which one's my favorite, but it's a really good time, you guys.
That is funny. Yeah, I mean, for the calories, sometimes I'm like, I'd rather have something else other than cheesecake, but if I'm just going on pure taste, I think it's delicious. But I think I like just your cheesecake. My mom makes a really good cheesecake. And she puts like nuts in the crust. graham cracker crust that's really good, and some like orange and lemon rind and stuff. So that makes it yummy. But yeah, or some like strawberries on top. That's delicious. So when we have cooking with the Hallmarkies, we'll maybe bust out our cheesecake recipes. But yeah, you're vegan, aren't you, Larry?
No, just a vegetarian.
Oh, just vegetarian. Okay. So you don't have that excuse. You just
No,
want
I
cheesecake.
don't. Just not a fan.
Okay.
You're just
All
like, I want to be
right.
full on Dorothy and hate cheesecake.
I hate everything.
All right. So let's talk about some of Larry and I came with some of our favorite episodes. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is one called Scared Straight. And this episode is about Blanche's brother. This is from season 4, episode 9. Blanche's brother comes into town, and she's like ready to like set him up on dates and stuff. And she finds out that he's gay. And I think that this was, and she struggles. She struggles with it, not because really she has any problem with someone being gay, but just because of the social stigma and things like that is what she has a problem with. And she kind of just wants him to like hide it, whatever. And I just think that the show handles it so well. It's so relatable, especially for that time period. And I think that Rue McClanahan is really good here. And I don't know, it's just the kind of thing that it's still funny, but they are able to be brave and talk about these things in a really like relatable way, I think.
Yeah, that actually, funny enough, was on my list. I made kind of lists about my favorites and kind of the standout moments socially that the Golden Girls did, and this, of course, is on both lists. And of course, it's really funny because she sets him up with Rose, and then she ends up getting mad. Like once they start, like she thinks they're hitting it off, she actually starts getting mad. And it's like, oh, okay, and then we get the actual answer. But I completely agree. I actually think, especially when it comes to the issues they bring up of race and of course this issue, Blanche is a good person because of just her upbringing, and his as well, because she is from the South and she is all about that Southern tradition and, as you said, like social status. But I think like you said, they did it really relatable about somebody who seemingly is so free, and obviously sexually herself, she is very open and free about it. But when it starts hitting close to home, it becomes different, and you end up reacting to it different. But then you love the person, so you end up coming back around. And I do like that they had him come back in a later episode, and she still is kind of like, oh yeah, I still process this thing, all of it. But I really enjoyed that episode too.
We have another one that I love. It's called Not Another Monday. This is another deep one. This is the ones that stood out to me. And this is one where Sophia's friend has decided she wants to end her life. And she comes to Sophia and she says, like, I want you to be there with me. I want you to help me, whatever. And it's very emotional. It's very, she struggles with the decision of what she's going to do. Is she going to, because she's appalled that her friend wants to do this, but she doesn't want her friend to be alone. And they're able to, spoiler alert, talk her out of it. But I don't know, it's just a really touching, well acted sequence. So episode.
Yeah, this was another one that I had on my like important issues one. I don't know that I consider it one of my favorites, just because there's so many that you're like, oh my gosh, they're my big favorites. But it's definitely one that brings to light, obviously, any sort of suicide issues. But I also think it brings to light elderly depression and just kind of the chronic illnesses and how that starts to weigh on you, and getting old, and if you're by yourself, what does that look like for people? And this is a real problem that really we don't really talk about elderly depression in the mainstream, and it can really affect people harshly. But I completely agree. Seeing Sophia going through the processes, because she herself is elderly, she's known this woman for years. She, at a certain point, understands the struggle the woman is going through, but being such a spitfire and full of life herself, knows that she she doesn't want her friend to go through with it, but as you said, struggles with, well, will I feel terrible if I just let her die alone and let her do this by herself? Will I feel more terrible if I'm holding her hand and feel it as she dies? But it is one of the most, I would say, actually impactful and deep episodes I think the series had. My next favorite one is actually from season 1, and it's called The Flu. And it is where the 3 girls all get sick right before an award ceremony. They're all trying to get better, trying to get to this award where I believe that they're all up for the same award. And of course, having them in competition, but also stuck together on this couch, sick and kind of grumpy. It made for what I think is one of the funniest episodes ever. So yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's on my list as well, because I was like, man, I have so many sad ones. This one is a really funny one. Yeah. And who knew
it's also on my list as well. Yeah, it was really funny. It was kind of, I don't know, really funny having Sophia be the only one like walking around and healthy, because it's just such a change from her just being like, I'm dying, I'm the worst, I'm old, and then everyone else is just there and she's like, hey, you better go to this thing. And they're all also trying to make sure that they have dates to this special banquet. So there's that funny part where Sophia's like, I gotta find the best date ever.
Yeah, who knew there were so many awards in Miami, like the Miami area? Like they give out more awards that these women can go to, or parades, or things like that. Like there are. The show is very creative at coming up with reasons for them to find dates or reasons for them to.
Definitely. I actually love when Sophia is kind of the odd one out from the group a little bit. Another episode that I love is when they all get, I don't remember if I had it on my list, but when they all get caught for prostitution in the bar. So they're all going to see Burt Reynolds, but at the beginning of the episode, they tell Sophia she can't come. They only have 3 tickets. Sorry, you have to stay behind. And then there's a big prostitution bust. And of course, Sophia enters with a big zinger. Like, of course, I know you're not prostitutes. It's these idiots who thought you could be prostitutes. But it's just great because then she like steals their tickets and goes and sees Burt Reynolds and has like this great time while they're sitting in jail. But I think that actually is makes for one of the funnest like little dynamics when those 3 either try to leave Sophia out and it comes back to bite them, or she's like the one that's just like, oh yeah, I'm old, but I'm the oldest and I'm gonna still do it.
One I love is when she decides to take in boarders to Blanche's house. And I don't know, that whole, because she wants to earn money for a TV. That one's really funny. I also love one called The Artist. And that's season 3, episode 13, where there's this artist in town who wants somebody to sculpt and basically like pose nude for him to sculpt, and they all end up posing for him, and they all think that the statue is going to be about them, and they're all, so there becomes this sort of rivalry between them, and it's really funny. And of course, Sophia at the end, ends up being the one, and it's funny. So yeah, she's really, really, really good. And there are some episodes where Rose ends up being a more serious character. There are a few, and the best one I think is called 72 Hours. And this was a pretty brave episode considering the time. And it's season 5, episode 19. Rose gets a letter saying that they're testing. They need to have everybody who received a blood transfusion from this time period has to come in because there's been an AIDS scare. They're testing everyone for HIV. And she has to come in and then wait 72 hours to see if she has HIV, which was like a huge, nightmare back then. And anyway, so that one's a very heartfelt, very emotional episode. I don't know what does it mean, these emotional episodes, but those are the ones that I remember the most.
Yeah.
And Betty White's so good in that one.
Yeah, this is one that I, again, didn't have necessarily on my favorites list, but was on the important topics list, because what a thing to explore right amidst while it's going on. Like now, of course, we have things exploring the HIV and AIDS scare of the 80s, but to do it then was unheard of, really.
Yeah.
And then I think a moment that really stuck out to me was kind of Blanche, actually, at the end or in the middle of the episode, when Rose is really freaking out and her just like saying, "This is not a bad person's disease, Rose. Like
Right.
you're thinking of this wrong. Anybody can get it. You just have to, like, that's not the way." And it's also really impactful with Sophia writing R on the cups and educating people on this is not how it's transmitted. You can't, like, this is not I know everybody's scared, everybody freaks out, but this is not actually what happens. And then seeing her take that R cup and drink from it before they find the results. It was all just a very impactful episode as well, and a great one. Like I said, it brings in education, it brings in social norms, tearing those down, tackling something that was scaring the nation.
Yeah. What's another one that you had on your list?
So for my actual list, I wanted to talk about, for like another funny one that I had on my list had to do with people going after the same thing, which is a common thing in the Golden Girls when you have 4 single women living together. This one is, yes, we have no Havanas. So this is when Blanche and Sophia end up dating the same guy. And so they find out that they're both dating this man and try to make an arrangement about, I'll go out with him this day, you go out with him that day, and they try to make it work with this gentleman, and of course it's a disaster and doesn't work at all. But I think this one has some of the best Blanche and Sophia back and forth. I mean, at one point they come to a head and Blanche tries to seduce the man while Sophia's getting ready for her date, talking about just enough water and to cover her bosom. Sophia like throws in this anger of like, you're only going to sit in 2 inches of water? Like, and it's one of the great lines, I think, of the show. But I just thought that was, most of the episodes where they're competing with one another, I think are pretty entertaining. And this is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that one's really funny. That's a really good one.
I also love when Rose plans Dorothy's party at Mr. Haha's. I think that was in another flashback episode where they just did like this random thing. So it's like this ridiculous clown running around like making fun of Dorothy's age and her being like, "Oh, do it one more time, Mr. Haha." Like, and it's just so ridiculous and outrageous. But I think those are some of the funniest ones.
As a big Broadway fan too, I did love one called Journey to the Center of Attention, where Blanche is really upset that Dorothy is like hanging out at her bar, basically, where she likes to hang out. There's a guy that plays the piano, and Dorothy starts singing. And of course, B. Arthur is a Broadway veteran, and she sings What'll I Do by Irving Berlin, and it's really lovely, really sweet. And then of course you get once her singing is a hit, then you get Blanche trying to do this like sexy, I forget what the song she does, but this sexy number, and it's just like a total disaster. And which is funny because you just think that of course Blanche is going to be good at that, but she actually is really terrible. So.
Or I like that one. I think we both had it mentioned too, like the Henny Penny episode where Dorothy has to step in and they all dress up like chickens and Russo's basically Chicken Little, Golden Girls style. The sky is falling. It's just another ridiculous scenario where you have these ladies dressed up in these like little hen and rooster outfits, and they all fit so well.
Yeah, for the school. That one's funny.
So funny.
The dancing competition one, I forget what name that is,
Oh
but
my gosh.
that
With
one's really funny.
The ridiculous stunt double for Betty White, where she's like flipping and cartwheeling throughout the dance floor.
Yeah.
I particularly loved when Dorothy and Rose like re-enter as Blanche is like exhaustedly working her way to win.
Yeah, so good. Oh, so many good times. I love the Golden Girls. It just consistently makes you laugh, and the writing is really good. The writing is the true star, but they also got great acting. And So this was so much fun. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Amber, for humoring us so that we could talk about it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, she's our resident golden girl here in the podcast. So
I'm wearing my outfit. That's really all I had to do for this, was just put on an outfit.
Just go into the closet.
Thank you for putting up with us. I appreciate it. And this was a lot of fun for me. And it was so fun to have Larry on the podcast. And so I appreciate it. And so, Larry, where can people find you?
Yeah, so as I said early on, I am on YouTube. So it's L like Larry, C as in my last name, Chilson, and then screen like movie screens, and then talk because I do a lot of talking. LCScreentalk. And then I'm also LCScreentalk on Twitter and Instagram, and most of those are all movie, film, pop culture related.
Nice. I'll have all that in the description section. We'll have that. And Amber, where can people find you?
As always, I'm at Amber Brainwaves on Twitter, and that's it.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. And make sure you're following us on the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod on iTunes, YouTube, and Instagram. Everywhere. We are on all the social media, and we post daily. So you definitely want to check that out. But thanks again, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Thanks for being my friends.